All right. Welcome to the TCAT 10-Minute Take. It is I, your host, Sheree L. Stewart, and with me, as always, is my intrepid co-host, Don, the man, the myth, the legend, Chambers. And today, we are talking about Marvel Cinema's first foray back into the theaters, as we are kind of hopping back into theaters. This is their first big release since lockdown.
Yeah, I don't even know what came out before lockdown.
Since this is basically our first big movie since Endgame.
Yeah, Endgame.
So we are going to talk about it. We are talking about, you know what it is, the long anticipated, the hotly waited for Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button and you click that bell to get all the 10-minute takes as soon as they drop.
Yes.
Now, as always, we will let Mr. Chambers go first and go.
Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson. Okay. Let me say, I personally have never, even in my comic book days, never a huge fan of Black Widow. Didn't really pay it any mind. In the whole MCU movie universe there, liked the character, didn't have a problem with it. I enjoyed Scarlett Johansson. She seemed to be having fun every time she played it, and she definitely brought a very human, grounded feel to that character. Enjoyed it. Knowing this movie was coming out, I was excited to see it in an overall Marvel sense, because I kind of want to see, all right, what tidbits are they throwing into this movie that apply to the universe? But I got to be very honest, I just don't have a huge interest in the character. But I said, well, maybe it'll do like what Ant-Man did for me. Like, oh, okay, it kind of brought me around, on like the Ant-Man character. Maybe this will do the same. And it kind of sort of did. I mean, I'm still not this huge Black Widow fan, but I never started out that way. This movie didn't necessarily change that. Now, what it did was it was an enjoyable movie. I thought the action sequences, as always, were great. They were on par. I kind of got the sort of family motif and theme that they were trying to push in there. I enjoyed that because I thought all the other actors in there, David Harbour, Florence Pugh, and Rachel Weisz, I thought they were great. It made for a great dysfunctional family that I dug. The baddie, let's take the Taskmaster. I'll admit I'm not a huge in the whole background of Taskmaster, but I understood from the comics what that person was. They sort of definitely took a little liberty with it here, and it seemed to me, and I could be wrong, but from this movie, I'm guessing they don't have Taskmaster as this huge part of Phase 4, because it seemed a bit throwaway, especially at the end. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not a Taskmaster, super fan, so I mean, I'm not pissed. I'm sure that those out there, yeah, I'm sure that those out there who love the character from the comic book and are not happy with how they did it, and I understand. But my assumption is they just sort of needed Taskmaster to be a functional cog in this movie. It doesn't have a bigger thing going on within the MCU. That's my assumption. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. And the other baddie played by, was that Ray Winston? I'm sorry. Or, oh, God. Where's his name, Ray? I keep screwing his name up. Hold on. I'm trying to look up the bad guy here in the Black Widow. Why is he not listed? Ray Winstone. That's it. I thought he was an okay baddie. Didn't really, grab me. His evil plot didn't really hold me, but I was like, okay, I'm just just kind of getting through this, still kind of waiting to see how it plays in the bigger picture. It didn't really seem to, considering this took place in the past with her still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sort of, I am being entertained, but I'm not wholeheartedly invested. Granted,
where would you put this on our scale?
Well, I'll say the after credit scene, I was like, oh, okay. I'm sort of seeing now how some of these characters are gonna play going forward. A little interested. I think maybe that might play in for spoiler alert, maybe it might play in the Hawkeye show that's supposed to be coming.
I think that's what that's about.
We'll kind of see how it ties in there. If I was to number it out, let's say a 6 to 7. I would probably see this matinee price because, again, a Marvel film will always get my money because I've never not been entertained. This story-wise and the character itself doesn't necessarily grab me like I have to run out there and see it that first Friday night and, be right there front and center. It just didn't. And the movie itself didn't do anything to necessarily change my mind from that. So, I think everybody who enjoys the Marvel Universe, they'll like the movie. I don't know if it'll necessarily be on their top 10 of Marvel films,
I think I disagree, kind of.
Okay.
I think this movie was definitely, it's 5 years too late. And
Could be, yeah.
Maybe 6 or 7 years too late. And that is its biggest sin, is we should have got this movie before Infinity War. And so the stakes for Natasha aren't there for us.
Right.
It's really good at getting a better characterization of her. I loved seeing her in the older sister role more than when she's in the Avengers, she's always calm and cool and collected, and seeing her kind of lose her shit a little bit, kind of bickering with her younger sister, being the older sister, that dynamic was so real, even though their relationship wasn't as long-standing. It felt like they were sisters, and a lot of that too was Florence Pugh. She was fantastic in this movie.
Yeah.
She's so good, and I can't wait to see her more into going into the rest of these things. But knowing that she's going into the rest of these things and knowing what already happens to Natasha, the stakes weren't as high as they could have been otherwise, because they just couldn't be.
Yeah.
Logistically. And that was a shame that, it took so long for this Black Widow movie to be realized as a movie, because it was so good and the potential for it was there. I don't like the Taskmaster character. My only problem with it was it felt tacked on, like you said. It felt unnecessary to have this Terminator-y secondary bad guy when and then for her to bare minimum apologize to this girl to kind of clear her ledger or whatever. It felt too easy. It was just hit that was easy Staples button. It felt too easy and too neat and too clean, and life is messy and regrets are regrets, and she didn't have to ever fix that. And we would still be where we are with Natasha if she was never cleared of that particular bit from her ledger. I do, or she was in a different way, just not having it be like that. Because I felt like more organically having Rachel Weisz's character, the Iron Maiden, not turn so quickly. Having that character be her. She's the one running around clipping these hiding, getting her she's already there, she's already doing it, having her couched on that farm as a scientist with clean hands, but knowing she has been trained and through the Red Room program and is a Black Widow, and never seeing that was a waste. And I felt like instead of Taskmaster, it should have been her. And then the two girls and the father working together free her from that. Like, that would have been more powerful for me, I think, than having her be kind of couched as a like a non-combatant character,
Mm-hmm.
and then morally ambiguous, doing these things, following orders, but not. And then the quick turn, like it was too easy. It was less complicated. It was less like than it could have been, and I don't know why they did that. Like, it was a perfectly good opportunity to just have that exact same character as the Taskmaster, but it's Iron Maiden instead. And so I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Because they don't normally make missteps like that. And as far as because like the family stuff was so good, and just their dynamic was really good, and the emotion of this was definitely one of the most emotional Marvel movies that we've had, where you really get to be involved with the characters on both sides of it, but more than any of the other ones. But it was, I don't know why I think and you know what? I think it's because Scarlett Johansson's, because Black Widow's dead, and they needed to tie all these things up for her, rather than if it was a movie that was made 7 years ago, that urgency to clip all these loose ends wouldn't have been there, and they would have been freer to maybe leave some things hanging for her. But they felt the need, I think, to tie everything up a little too neat. It was a little too neat. Mm-hmm. But the action was crazy. I like Thunderbolt Ross as a bad guy, like him more as the bad guy, like less than. Like they had them there, like they had the pieces there, and so I think that's one of those things where you're trying to shoehorn a thing into a nearly complete thing, rather than having it be an organic piece that would have fed into the rest of the universe and seeing how it would have played out.
Right.
They weren't as free as they could have been otherwise, with some, like the liberties they could have taken with some of these things.
Right.
Because they had to shoehorn it into our already pre-established universe that's so clicked in everywhere else. And that was kind of a bummer. I do think it's worth, I would see it in the, like, full price, not just a matinee. Like, I paid full price movie tickets, and I'm not mad about it. I did not, for full transparency, I did not go to the theater. I paid them Disney plus Double D tickets, which is worth two full price movie tickets.
Yeah, at least in California it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have my projector still, watched it on the thing, and I wasn't mad about it. You know, made some popcorn, made it a night. Like, if I had seen it, if it was theater times still, and I had seen it in the theaters, I wouldn't have been mad about that at full price. So I don't think you'll be mad about it. It's just, it's kind of a bummer because of what it could have been had we gotten it when we should have gotten it.
Right. Exactly. But you won't be mad if you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified every time we release one of our videos. And also, to make it easier for our tens of listeners, you can always go to tcatnetwork.com. All of our podcast as well as YouTube stuff is the links are on there, as well as links to Good Morning Antioch and the reading as well. So hope you enjoyed that one. Don't forget, subscribe, hit the bell. We've got more coming up in a little bit. See you then.
See ya.